Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging into the heart of a monument that has stood sentinel over human history for millennia. A structure so enduringly iconic, it's instantly recognizable the world over. The Great Pyramid of Giza. Just picture it. A colossal, gleaming mountain of stone, a geometry of awe rising from the desert sands, the last surviving wonder of the ancient world. It's truly a testament to something immense, something we're still striving to fully comprehend. And our mission today, well, it's not just about marveling at its grandeur, though, yeah, we'll definitely do some of that. We're going beyond the familiar postcards and documentaries. We want to explore not just what we know about the Great Pyramid, but critically, how we know it. What are the bedrock pieces of evidence? And then we're going to peel back the layers on the truly cutting edge discoveries that are literally rewriting its story in real time right now. This monument stands as both an paralleled triumph of ancient human engineering and, let's be honest, a colossal magnet for enduring mysteries and sometimes truly wild speculation. We're here to sift through the facts, provide you with a comprehensive understanding of this colossal monument, and invite you to ponder some of its most compelling secrets yourself. Can we ever truly know everything about something so ancient and grand?
That's the very essence of this deep dive, isn't it? What's fascinating here is that our exploration today is built from an incredibly rich and diverse tapestry of sources. We're drawing from the ancient texts and classical accounts that first introduced this wonder to the wider world, yes, but also from meticulous modern archaeology that has literally unearthed its secrets. And even revolutionary techniques from the cutting edge of particle physics. It allows us to take a truly multifaceted journey into its past and its ongoing revelations. It's an incredible intersection of history, engineering, and 21st century science.
Okay, so let's embark on this journey by asking the foundational question, why? Why was this colossal structure built? Because for all the theories and speculation that surround it, I mean, you hear all sorts, but the fundamental purpose of the Great Pyramid of Giza is actually quite clear to archaeologists, right? It's grounded in a wealth of evidence.
That's right. It was, first and foremost, a royal commission, conceived and executed as the eternal abode for the pharaoh Khufu.
Kufuge.
That's the undisputed core truth. The primary and unequivocal purpose of the Great Pyramid was funerary. It was constructed during Egypt's Fourth Dynasty, a period often referred to as the Golden Age of the Old Kingdom, around 2600 BC, specifically as the Grand Tomb for Pharaoh Khufu. He's the ruler the later Greeks came to know as Cheops. In ancient Egyptian belief, the tomb, often called the House of the Dead, was far more than a simple resting place. It was absolutely crucial for ensuring the pharaoh's successful transition to the afterlife and his eternal existence as a divine being.
Right, so it wasn't just like a simple burial site. It had profound functions tied directly to Egyptian cosmology and the very fabric of their state. What were these critical roles for such a monumental tomb?
Exactly. We can identify at least four critical functions that a royal tomb on this scale was intended to fulfill. Firstly, it was designed to house and protect the pharaoh's physical body, his mummy, for all eternity. This was vital, as the body was considered the vessel for the soul's eternal journey.
Makes sense. Protect the body.
Secondly, it served as an undeniable and permanent demonstration of his immense status, power, and wealth, not just to his living subjects, but also to the gods and to generations yet unborn. A massive statement.
A statement piece for sure.
Thirdly, it was meticulously crafted to secure the deceased king's exalted place within the afterlife's complex social and divine hierarchy, ensuring his continued influence and authority even beyond death. And fourthly, it acted as a permanent focal point for an elaborate system of daily offerings and rituals, vital practices designed to sustain the pharaoh's spirit, or Ka, in the afterlife.
The Ka, so it was like keeping his spirit alive through offerings.
Precisely. So, what does this tell us? It transforms the pyramid from a mere resting place into a meticulously designed engine for the king's eternal existence and continued political authority. It shows just how integrated afterlife beliefs were with the fabric of ancient Egyptian governance.
And the most direct, tangible evidence for this primary purpose, that would be the sarcophagus, wouldn't it? The massive empty one still sitting stoically in the king's chamber, high up in the pyramid's heart.
Yes, that massive monolithic granite sarcophagus is a definitive and eloquent piece of evidence. Its sheer size and immovable placement within the king's chamber confirm, beyond any reasonable doubt, its intended use as Khufu's final resting place. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the Great Pyramid also became the pioneering and largest monument in what would evolve into a multi-generational royal burial ground. The Giza Plateau itself was specifically chosen as the royal necropolis for Memphis, the capital of the Old Kingdom.
So Giza was like the royal cemetery district.
Essentially, yes. Khufu's pyramid was later joined by those of his son Khafre and his grandson Menkaure, creating the iconic trio we see today. And its placement on the west bank of the Nile was no accident either. The west, where the sun made its daily descent, was deeply significant theologically, intrinsically linked with the realm of the dead and the journey of the sun god Ra in Egyptian cosmology.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, I know there are a lot of alternative theories out there, often quite sensational, you hear them all the time, about who built the pyramid or if it was even built by humans at all. But traditional archaeology, based on hard, verifiable evidence, is pretty firm on Khufu, isn't it? What's the irrefutable evidence? I'm picturing ancient texts, but you're hinting at something even more direct, aren't you?
Absolutely. The attribution of the Great Pyramid to Khufu is not a matter of conjecture or belief. Rather, it's supported by a powerful convergence of evidence. It forms the absolute bedrock of modern Egyptological understanding. This stands in stark contrast to some of the fringe theories that often dismiss or simply ignore this substantial body of proof.
Okay, so what are these layers of proof?
Well, we can trace this certainty through multiple layers of evidence. The first comes from historical tradition. Classical authors such as Herodotus, writing around 450 BC, and Diodorus Siculus, writing in the 1st century BC, explicitly named Khufu as the builder.
Though that was written much later, right?
Yes, approximately 2 millennia after its construction, but they reflect an enduring memory and tradition passed down through generations. However, this is where it gets really interesting because the most conclusive line of evidence comes from direct inscriptional proof, a true archaeological bombshell.
Ah, the original builder's graffiti. Tell us about that. That sounds amazing.
Precisely. In 1837, a pivotal discovery was made by Colonel Howard Vyse, an English explorer, using rather, shall we say, robust methods, including gunpowder.
Gunpowder? Really?
Yes,
Gross.
controversial now, but it was a different time. He blasted his way into 5 previously sealed relieving chambers that were built directly above the king's chamber. And what he found within these chamber spaces, never intended to be seen by human eyes after the pyramid's completion, were quarry marks and graffiti painted in vibrant red ochre by the original work crews.
No way. What did they say?
These markings identified the work gangs directly with the pharaoh's name. For instance, one prominent inscription read, "The gang, the white crown of Gum Khufu is powerful." Gum Khufu is a variation of Khufu's full name. This direct, contemporary inscriptional evidence, scrawled on the stone by the very hands that shaped the pyramid, irrefutably links the monument's construction to the reign of Khufu. It's like finding a signed blueprint from 4,500 years ago, hidden in a sealed attic.
So proof from the builders themselves, literally hidden inside the pyramid. That's incredible. What about the archaeological context surrounding the pyramid? How does that solidify the connection to Khufu?
That's the third crucial line of evidence. It's contextual, derived from the systematic and extensive excavation of the vast cemeteries surrounding the pyramid. To the east and west of the Great Pyramid lie fields of mastabas, those distinctive flat-topped rectangular tombs belonging to Khufu's immediate family, including his wives and children, and the highest-ranking officials of his court.
Like his ministers and advisors.
Exactly. This includes prominent figures like his vizier Himiunu, who is widely thought to have been the pyramid's chief architect, and Prince Ankaf, another high-ranking royal. In ancient Egypt, it was considered a profound honor, indeed a necessity for one's afterlife, for courtiers to be buried in the immediate vicinity of the king they served. It ensured their place in his eternal court.
So being buried near the king was a big deal.
A huge deal. The very presence of this extensive royal necropolis, meticulously planned and centered squarely on Khufu's pyramid, provides a rich archaeological context that cements its identity as the focal point of Khufu's reign and his elaborate funerary preparations. This robust, three-pronged evidentiary foundation historical tradition, direct inscriptional evidence, and overwhelming archaeological context establishes Khufu's ownership with a degree of certainty that is truly rare for monuments of such antiquity.
Okay, that makes it incredibly clear. But the Great Pyramid wasn't just a standalone tomb, was it? You mentioned it was part of an even larger integrated system. You called it a machine for the afterlife. What did that machine entail?
Absolutely. To understand the Great Pyramid solely as a tomb is to miss its true, profound function. It was the centerpiece of a vast and intricate mortuary complex. Essentially a meticulously engineered machine designed to facilitate the pharaoh's transition from a moral ruler to a divine being and to sustain his spirit for eternity. This entire complex functioned as an integrated architectural and ritual landscape, each part playing a crucial role in the king's journey.
So it's not just the pyramid, it's the whole area around it. What were these other key structures that completed this machine?
Well, at the pyramid's base, specifically on its eastern side, stood a massive mortuary temple. This temple, often referred to as the High Temple, was where daily rituals and offerings for the deceased king were performed, maintaining his connection to the living world.
Okay, a temple for rituals.
Then, from this temple, a long, covered stone causeway stretching for nearly a kilometer or about two-thirds of a mile sloped down the plateau to a valley temple located on the very edge of the Nile floodplain.
A causeway leading down to the river.
Exactly. The valley temple served as the entry point to the entire complex. This is where the king's body would have been ritually purified and prepared through the final rites of mummification before its solemn journey up the causeway to the pyramid itself.
And there were other smaller pyramids too, right? For his family, like his wife.
Yes, surrounding the main pyramid were several smaller subsidiary pyramids. Three of these, positioned to the east, are known as the Queen's Pyramids. They're believed to be the tombs of Khufu's principal wives, such as Meritites and Henutsen. Another small, beautifully crafted pyramid belonged to his mother, Queen Hetepheres I. Her spectacular, largely intact funerary equipment, things like a gold-cased bed and jewel-inlaid armchairs, was discovered in a nearby Shak tomb in 1925. It provides an astonishing glimpse into royal funerary wealth.
Wow, intact treasure. That must have been incredible to find.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And intimately associated with the complex were at least two large, boat-shaped pits, meticulously carved into the bedrock near the pyramid. These contained full-size, disassembled cedarwood boats. One of them, the magnificent Khufu ship, has since been painstakingly reconstructed. It's a true masterpiece of ancient naval architecture, over 40 meters long.
A boat? What was that for?
It was intended to serve the pharaoh as a solar bark, enabling his celestial journeys with the sun god Ra across the heavens, mirroring the sun's daily circuit.
A boat for the king to sail through the heavens? That's a truly powerful and poetic image, tying the king directly to the sun god. And unlike later pyramids, the interior of the Great Pyramid is quite stark, isn't it? No grand murals or inscriptions, which might seem surprising given its purpose.
That's a keen observation. The interior of the pyramid itself was indeed stark and undecorated, which was actually in keeping with the austere funerary customs of the Fourth Dynasty. This contrasted sharply with the later, much more lavishly decorated tombs of the New Kingdom. However, the associated temples were anything but simple. They were lavishly decorated with intricate reliefs and inscriptions, often depicting the king performing important rituals like the Sed Festival, a jubilee celebrating his reign and his renewal of power.
So the decoration was in the temples, not the tomb itself.
Exactly. And crucially, these temples weren't abandoned after the king's burial. They became the enduring heart of his mortuary cult. For hundreds of years, state-endowed priests carried out the necessary rites and presented offerings, ensuring Khufu's successful afterlife. The very existence and long-term operation of this state-sponsored cult, spanning over a millennium in some form, provides powerful indirect evidence that Khufu was in fact successfully interred within his pyramid and that the structure continued to serve its intended religious function.
So the pyramid wasn't just a static monument completed in a few decades. It was the foundation of a dynamic, living religious and economic institution that shaped the landscape of Giza for centuries.
Exactly. Its sacredness endured for over a millennium. You even see later New Kingdom pharaohs like Thutmose IV and Ramesses II adding their own chapels and monuments to the site, venerating the Sphinx and the ancient pyramids as a direct link to their own divine heritage and the powerful Old Kingdom pharaohs who had come before them.
Wow, so it remained important for a very long time.
This demonstrates the profound and lasting impact of Khufu's creation on Egyptian religious and political life.
And finally, the shape itself, the pyramid. This wasn't just an arbitrary architectural choice, was it? It must have carried deep symbolic weight, tying the king to core cosmological beliefs.
Absolutely. This raises an important question. What did the pyramid shape represent to the ancient Egyptians? It was a profound theological statement, imbued with multiple layers of symbolism. It connected the pharaoh directly to the core concepts of Egyptian creation and cosmology. The tapering form is widely believed to be a direct solar reference, a solidified, petrified version of the sun's rays spreading down to the earth.
Like sunbeams turned to stone.
Precisely, providing a tangible link between the king and the powerful sun god Ra. Ancient religious texts, particularly the pyramid texts from later dynasties, often speak of the sun's rays as a ramp or stairway upon which the pharaoh's soul could ascend to the heavens, to join the imperishable stars in the northern sky, which represented eternal cosmic order.
A stairway to heaven, essentially.
In a way, yes. And finally, the pyramid shape represented the sacred Benben, the primordial mound that was believed to have emerged from the chaotic waters of Nu at the very beginning of creation, bringing forth life and order. As a symbol of this first moment of life and regeneration, the pyramid was thus a potent place of rebirth, from which the deceased king could be reborn into the afterlife, eternally linked to creation itself.
So, what's the larger picture here? The Great Pyramid was a multi-layered, monumental machine for eternity, purpose-built for its pharaoh and deeply rooted in Egyptian belief. Having established why it was built, the truly mind-boggling part comes next. How this incredible, colossal achievement came to be. Right, the construction.
Yeah.
The Great Pyramid is truly one of the most extraordinary engineering feats in human history. We're talking about a monument composed of approximately 2.3 million stone blocks.
Just think about that number for a second, 2.3 million.
It's insane! With a staggering total mass estimated at 5.9 million tons, somehow erected in a period of just 20 to 30 years, that alone is enough to make anyone scratch their head. Where on earth did they even get all that stone?
It was truly a kingdom-wide enterprise, a logistical masterpiece. The vast majority of the pyramid's core, which accounts for most of its immense volume, was built from blocks of nummulitic limestone, essentially, a fossil-rich marine limestone. This was shrewdly quarried directly on the Giza Plateau itself, primarily from an area just south of the monument. This strategic choice of location was a logistical masterstroke, as it minimized the transport distance for those millions of core blocks, which averaged around 2.5 tons each.
2.5 tons on average. Still massive. But the exterior wasn't that rough. Local limestone, was it? The stories say it gleamed almost like a second sun.
Indeed. For the exterior, a much finer and aesthetically superior material was required. The pyramid was originally encased in highly polished, brilliant white limestone from the Tura quarries.
Tura, where's that?
On the eastern bank of the Nile near modern Cairo. These casing stones were cut with incredible precision, often to within a few millimeters, and fitted together with joints so fine that even today, a knife blade cannot be inserted between them.
Incredible craftsmanship.
Absolutely. When complete, this gleaming white surface, topped possibly with a gold-plated capstone, would have caused the pyramid to shine dazzlingly in the Egyptian sun. A truly breathtaking sight, aptly described as a second sun over all of Egypt.
Wow. I wish we could see that today. And then there's the granite for the really critical structural parts like the king's chamber. That came from much further away from Aswan, hundreds of miles to the south. How did they even move those colossal pieces?
Yes. For the most critical structural and ritual components, the builders employed red granite. This is an extremely hard, igneous rock used for the walls and ceiling beams of the king's chamber, the sarcophagus, the massive portcullis blocking systems, and the 5 relieving chambers hidden above the king's chamber. These granite blocks were monumental in scale, with some of the ceiling beams weighing between 40 and 80 tons.
80 tons. That's equivalent to multiple modern semi-trucks.
Exactly. And these were sourced from the distant quarries of Aswan, a staggering 500 miles, or over 800 kilometers, to the south. They had to be transported down the Nile on massive, custom-built barges, likely pulled by ropes from the banks. An enormous undertaking.
Okay, so they sourced the stone from all over, some of it incredibly heavy and far away. But how did they cut it? We know they didn't have iron tools back then. That technology was millennia in the future. How did they manage granite with copper?
Right, that's a key point. What's truly fascinating here is the sheer ingenuity and perseverance they applied without iron. For the softer limestone blocks, workers used hardened copper chisels and saws. That was relatively straightforward, but for the much harder granite, the techniques were far more time-consuming and laborious. This included pounding the stone with heavy dolerite balls, a type of rock even harder than granite, to literally bruise and break away the stone bit by bit.
Just pounding it into shape. That sounds incredibly slow.
Incredibly slow and labor-intensive. For sawing, they used copper saws in conjunction with an abrasive quartz sand slurry. The copper saws themselves weren't strong enough to cut granite directly, but combined with the abrasive sand, they could slowly grind through the stone.
Like using sand as the cutting agent. Clever.
Very clever.
Yeah.
Once a block was isolated, wooden levers were then used to pry it from the quarry bed, and wooden mallets would shape it. It was a testament to patience, immense manpower, and simple mechanical advantage.
For centuries, the specifics of transporting these massive stones across land and water were just guesswork. Historians debated logistics, but then just a few years ago, we got a revolutionary peek into their ancient logistics, thanks to an incredible discovery that truly brought the past to life.
Absolutely. This raises an important question about how we move beyond speculation to concrete understanding of ancient practices. In 2013, a truly remarkable discovery at the Red Sea port of Wadi al-Jarf on Egypt's eastern coast changed everything. A French archaeological team unearthed a collection of fragmented papyri, among them the Diary of Mer, a logbook making it the oldest inscribed papyrus ever found.
A diary from a pyramid builder. That's like finding a direct daily memo from the construction site. What did this ancient clerk record? What does it tell us?
It truly is. The diary belonged to an inspector named Merer, a middle-ranking official in charge of a crew of some 40 elite boatmen. Dated to the 27th year of Khufu's reign, which was likely the very end of the construction project as the pyramid was nearing completion, the logbook meticulously records the daily activities of his team over several months. The most significant entries detail the transportation of the fine white limestone casing stones from the Tura quarries to the Giza pyramid site, which the diary calls by its ancient name, Akhet Khufu, or the Horizon of Khufu.
The Horizon of Khufu. Wow. So, what did Mirror's diary reveal about their logistical system? Did it confirm long-held theories or turn things on their head?
It confirmed a highly efficient, multimodal logistical system that was more sophisticated than many had imagined. Mirror's crew would sail to Tura, load the limestone blocks onto their boat, then transport them down the Nile. Crucially, the diary, combined with other archaeological evidence, confirmed that the Egyptians engineered a sophisticated system of canals and an inland harbor at the very base of the Giza Plateau.
Canals, right up to the pyramid site.
Yes, this allowed the boats to deliver their heavy cargo directly to the construction site, bypassing the need for a long, arduous overland haul across rough terrain. Much more efficient. Mirror's records show incredible efficiency. A typical round trip from Tura to Giza and back took just 4 days, with Mirror's team making 2 or 3 such trips every 10 days. Think about that pace.
That's incredibly fast for moving tons of stone back then.
It really is. The diary also provided key insight into the project's management structure, noting that Mer and his crew reported directly to the Vizier Ankaf, Khufu's half-brother, who was overseeing the work. This confirms a clear, top-down chain of command, extending from the pharaoh himself down to the overseers of individual work gangs.
So it was highly organized, top to bottom.
Extremely. The discovery of this papyrus was revolutionary. It transformed our understanding from educated guesswork into knowledge based on a first-hand, contemporary account. It reveals a logistical operation of stunning sophistication, where riverine transport, canal engineering, and overland hauling were seamlessly integrated. It rivals modern supply chains in its efficiency and scale, demonstrating an administrative genius previously only guessed at.
This sounds like a massively organized effort, which brings us to one of the most persistent and pervasive myths about the pyramids. That they were built by vast armies of slaves, forced to toil under a merciless pharaoh. This is something modern archaeology has definitively and quite powerfully debunked, hasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. That persistent myth, which actually originated with the Greek historian Herodotus centuries after the pyramids were built.
Herodotus again.
Yes, him again. The idea of massive workforces of slaves toiling under the whip has been comprehensively debunked by decades of modern archaeology. The primary evidence comes from the excavation of a large planned settlement located southeast of the Giza Plateau, known today as Height el Ghurab, or the lost city of the pyramid builders.
The lost city of the pyramid builders. So what did they actually find in this lost city that fundamentally changed our understanding of the workforce? Was it just huts?
Oh, far from it. This was not a slave camp at all, but a highly organized urban center. It had a grid of streets, permanent houses, massive bakeries and breweries designed for industrial-scale food production, a harbor, administrative buildings, and large, gallery-like structures that served as barracks for the rotating workforce. This city primarily provided the labor and support services for the construction of the pyramids of Khafre and Menkaure, with tantalizing evidence of an even earlier settlement beneath it that may date back to Khufu's reign.
Okay, so a proper town. Who lived there?
The workforce was comprised not of slaves, but of native Egyptians. It consisted of a smaller, permanent cadre of highly skilled craftsmen and overseers, supplemented by a much larger rotating workforce of laborers. These laborers were conscripted from villages across Egypt, serving for periods of a few months at a time as a form of national service or tax payment to the state, like a national project.
So it was more like a national service duty than slavery. How many people are we talking about?
Modern estimates place the total workforce at any given time at around 20,000 to 30,000 individuals, a much more plausible figure than Herodotus's exaggerated 100,000. Still a huge number, but manageable.
And their living conditions, were they as miserable as the myth suggests? What did their daily lives look like? Were they just eating gruel?
Quite the opposite. While life in the workers' city was undoubtedly demanding and physically arduous, the laborers were remarkably well cared for by the state. Analysis of the vast quantities of animal bones unearthed at the site reveals that the workers were fed a protein-rich diet, consuming large amounts of beef, which was a luxury in ancient Egypt, as well as mutton, goat, pork, and fish.
Beef. Wow, not slave rations at all.
Definitely not. This diet provided the necessary calories for their strenuous physical labor and was likely of a higher quality and quantity than what they ate in their home villages. They were also provided with daily rations of bread and beer, the staples of the Egyptian diet. Furthermore, they had access to sophisticated medical care. Skeletons recovered from the adjacent workers' cemetery show evidence of the toll of their labor, including arthritis, spinal compression, and fractures. That's expected.
Right, tough work.
But critically, many of these broken bones show signs of having been expertly set and healed correctly, indicating a sophisticated level of medical treatment far beyond what one would expect for enslaved people.
Okay, so they were looked after, and perhaps the most compelling evidence against the slave theory, their burials. How were they treated in death?
Yes, that's crucial. They were not discarded or left in mass graves. Instead, they were laid to rest with honor in mud brick tombs on a hillside, overlooking the very pyramids they helped build. Their graves contained funerary goods such as pottery, tools, and even small stelae, indicating a belief in their own afterlife and a respected position in society.
Buried with respect, near their greatest achievement.
Exactly. And perhaps most tellingly, the workers themselves left their mark in the form of graffiti. These weren't cries of misery, but spirited gang names scrawled on the quarry stones or within the relieving chambers. Remember those?
Yeah, the Khufu graffiti.
Like the Friends of Khufu gang or the Drunkards of Menkar gang. This evidence points not to the misery of enslaved people, but to a sense of camaraderie, team identity, and immense pride in their contribution to a national project of immense religious and cultural significance.
The Drunkards of Menkar gang? I love that.
Right. It paints a picture of real people. The construction of the Great Pyramid was not an act of oppression, but rather a massive project of national integration, mobilizing the human and material resources of the entire country to build an eternal monument for their divine king, thereby reinforcing the central authority and unity of the pharaonic state.
So we know who built it, what they were fed, and even where they lived. But for many, the single greatest debate, the real enduring question that seems to defy simple answers, is still, how? How did they actually lift those millions of multi-ton blocks, sometimes 80-ton granite beams, to a height of over 480 feet? This is where theories abound, and where many people feel there has to be something we don't understand, perhaps even a lost technology. What's the current thinking?
Indeed. While quarrying, transport, and labor organization are now reasonably well understood, the method of raising the stones remains the most fiercely debated aspect of the pyramid's construction. The consensus among Egyptologists is that some form of ramp was the primary mechanism, but the exact configuration of this ramp system is a subject of intense scholarly contention. This raises an important question. If a simple straight ramp isn't feasible, what are the alternatives? And what does this imply about their engineering ingenuity, or perhaps methods we haven't yet grasped?
Because a simple, long, straight ramp, if it were to reach the upper levels with a manageable gradient, say around 7-8 degrees, it would have to be over a mile long.
Exactly. And it would contain a volume of material nearly equal to the pyramid itself. Yet no archaeological trace of such a colossal structure has ever been found. It just vanishes.
So what are the leading theories that attempt to solve this seemingly intractable problem? If not a giant straight ramp, then what?
This is the fundamental engineering problem that has led to several alternative ramp theories, each with its proponents and critics. One proposal is the zigzag or switchback ramp.
Like a mountain road.
Sort of, yes. It would ascend one face of the pyramid in a series of switchbacks. This design would significantly reduce the ramp's overall footprint, making it more manageable. However, critics point out the immense difficulty of maneuvering massive stone blocks on sledges around tight uphill corners, especially with the primitive turning mechanisms available at the time, Imagine trying to turn an 80-ton block on a hairpin bend.
Yeah, that sounds tricky.
Another popular theory is the spiral or encircling ramp. This suggests a ramp that wrapped around the exterior of the pyramid as it grew higher, like a continuous corkscrew.
That sounds more efficient, maybe.
It is, in terms of materials, and it provides continuous access to all sides of the structure. However, critics, including many architects and engineers, argue that such a ramp would have completely obscured the pyramid's four corners and faces. This would have made it exceedingly difficult for the builders to maintain the precise geometric angles, level courses, and survey the structure accurately as it rose. It could easily lead to significant deviations in its remarkable precision. How do you keep it square if you can't see the corners?
Good point. And then there's the internal ramp theory, proposed by French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin, which I know has gained a lot of attention, especially with the recent discoveries we'll discuss later. How does that one work?
The internal ramp theory, proposed by Jean-Pierre Houdin, is a more recent and truly compelling hypothesis. It attempts to address some of the issues with external ramps. It suggests that an external straight ramp was used to build only the lower third of the pyramid, while the upper two-thirds were constructed using a spiral ramp built inside the pyramid's outer edge, about 10 to 15 meters from the face.
Inside. So hidden.
Exactly. This theory elegantly explains the complete lack of archaeological evidence for a massive external ramp reaching the top. Intriguingly, it also proposes that certain newly discovered voids within the structure, which we'll delve into in our next section, could be remnants or pathways of this internal ramp system.
Connecting to the new scans.
Potentially. However, critics point out its immense architectural complexity and the difficulty of building such a hidden, spiraling tunnel with precision. Initial scan pyramids results haven't definitively confirmed the proposed continuous ramp structure, but the idea remains a strong contender. It's very clever.
Are there any other techniques considered? Perhaps not as the main method, but as supplementary ways of lifting or maneuvering blocks. Levers, maybe?
It is highly probable that no single method was used exclusively. Instead, ramps were likely supplemented by other ingenious techniques. Herodotus's account, which mentions the use of machines made of short wooden logs to lift stones from one course to the next, is widely interpreted as a description of levering systems. Levers would have been indispensable for the final, precise positioning of blocks, lifting them those crucial few feet from one course to the next, especially in the pyramid's upper reaches where a ramp would have become impractically narrow.
So levers for the fine-tuning.
Yes. More speculative theories, such as the use of water-filled shafts and locks to float blocks upwards, has also been proposed, drawing on the Egyptians' undisputed mastery of hydraulic engineering for irrigation.
Floating the blocks up? Seriously?
It's speculative. There is currently no direct archaeological evidence to support the use of such mechanisms at Giza, though the possibility highlights the persistent search for a lost technology or a more elegant solution beyond simple brute force and ramps. People want there to be something more.
So what's the takeaway from this ongoing debate about how they built it? It sounds like the secret isn't one single magical trick, but a combination of ingenious methods that we're still trying to fully grasp, leaving open the question of whether we truly understand the full extent of their ingenuity.
Exactly. The ongoing debate highlights that the solution to raising the stones likely lies not in a single undiscovered secret or some alien technology, but in a clever, pragmatic, and evolving combination of the technologies known to the Egyptians. Applied with immense manpower, organizational genius, and a profound understanding of mechanics. The precise details are still elusive, and that's why the mystery endures. It's certainly something we don't yet fully understand, and it continues to challenge our assumptions about the capabilities of ancient people.
Beyond its sheer size and the mechanics of building it, the Great Pyramid is also a marvel of incredible precision and alignment. It's almost perfectly oriented to the cardinal directions, and its base is a near-perfect square. How did they manage that?
It's truly astonishing. Its four sides are almost perfectly aligned with the four cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, with an average deviation of just a few arc minutes, a fraction of a degree. That's incredible precision over such a large base. This remarkable feat of orientation was almost certainly achieved through sophisticated astronomical methods, likely by tracking the rising and setting of a circumpolar star, or by bisecting the angle between the rising and setting sun at the equinoxes. They were master surveyors of the heavens.
Using the stars to align a building on Earth. Amazing.
And the base of the pyramid is also an almost perfect square. The lengths of the four sides vary by no more than 8 inches, or 20 centimeters, over a distance of 756 feet, or 230 meters. That's less than a foot difference on sides longer than 2 football fields. The foundation itself was meticulously leveled over its massive area, a process that may have involved constructing a perfectly flat surface using water-filled trenches or by meticulously leveling a large bedrock platform.
And then there's the enduring fascination with its mathematical properties. Pi and the golden ratio seem to appear in its dimensions, which leads to a big debate. Was this intentional, a sign of advanced theoretical knowledge, or a remarkable coincidence of simpler design
Ah,
principles?
yes, the math debate. What's fascinating here is that the very proportions of the pyramid seem to encode profound mathematical relationships, leading to a compelling scholarly discussion. For decades, scholars have noted that the pyramid's dimensions appear to incorporate the values of two of mathematics' most fundamental constants, pi, and the golden ratio, phi.
Pi and Chi, how?
For example, if you take the perimeter of the pyramid and divide it by twice its original height, the ratio is approximately 3.144, which is remarkably close to the value of pi. In another relationship, the ratio of the slant height of the pyramid's face to half its base length is approximately 1.6185, an extremely close approximation of the golden ratio phi.
Okay, those numbers are really close. So, were the Egyptians secretly master mathematicians with advanced theoretical knowledge, deliberately encoding these universal constants, maybe seeing them as divine proportions? Or is there a simpler explanation?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The debate rages. On one side, intentionalists argue that the Egyptians possessed a sophisticated knowledge of theoretical mathematics, far beyond what traditional evidence suggests, and deliberately designed the pyramid to reflect these universal constants. On the other side, coincidentalists contend that these elegant proportions are a natural byproduct of a much simpler, practical system of design based on whole numbers than simple ratios, well within the known capabilities of Old Kingdom Egyptians.
Like they stumbled upon it through practical methods.
Sort of. They point to the Egyptian unit of slope, the sect, which was defined as the horizontal run in palms for every 1 cubit of vertical rise. The slope of the Great Pyramid corresponds to a sect of 5.5 palms. That's a simple ratio of 7 to 5.5, essentially. Coincidentally, this ratio is an excellent approximation of the square root of phi, and the geometry that results from it also happen to approximate the pi relationship.
So, using a simple practical measurement unit could accidentally produce these complex ratios.
It seems so. Whether by deliberate theoretical design or as a fortuitous consequence of their practical empirical methods, the Tudors created a structure of profound mathematical harmony that continues to fascinate mathematicians and engineers to this day. It's remarkable either way, wouldn't you agree?
It's incredible either way, truly. So we've explored the outside and how this colossal structure came together piece by piece. But what about the secrets hidden within its solid core? Let's now journey into the afterlife and delve into the pyramid's intricate interior.
Right. The interior of the Great Pyramid is a stark contrast to its monumental, seemingly solid exterior. It is not a hollow structure, but a mostly solid mass of stone. It contains a small, intricate network of passages and chambers meticulously designed to protect the pharaoh's body and guide his soul to the afterlife. Unlike later pyramids and tombs, the walls are entirely devoid of inscriptions or decorations, reflecting the austere funerary customs of the Fourth Dynasty.
So plain walls inside.
Very plain. The journey into the pyramid's heart reveals a complex architectural narrative, one that strongly suggests a design that may have evolved over the decades of its construction rather than being the rigid execution of a static blueprint.
So it wasn't a fixed master plan from day one, but something that changed and adapted as they built. That's really interesting. Let's start with the entrance itself. What was the original way in, and how do we access it now?
Access to the pyramid's interior begins on its north face. The original entrance, a small, inconspicuous opening sealed after the pharaoh's burial, is located about 17 meters or 56 feet above the ground. It was cleverly concealed behind a series of large, gabled chevron stones. The entrance used by visitors today is actually a lower forced passage. It was crudely tunneled in 820 AD by the treasure-hunting Caliph al-Mamun. His men painstakingly bypassed the original security features.
Treasure hunters forced their way in. Figures.
From the original entrance, the descending corridor slopes downwards at a precise angle of about 26 degrees. It passes through the pyramid's core masonry and continues deep into the bedrock beneath it.
And that leads to the famous subterranean chamber deep underground. What was its purpose? Was it ever used? It looks so rough and unfinished in pictures.
That's right. This initial passage leads directly to the subterranean chamber. It's a rough, unfinished room, almost like a cavern, cut into the bedrock more than 30 meters or 100 feet below the pyramid's base. Its purpose remains one of the pyramid's persistent mysteries. It is widely believed to have been the originally intended burial chamber, perhaps abandoned midway through construction when the builders decided to place the tomb higher within the pyramid superstructure.
Ah, so plan A, maybe?
Possibly. Alternatively, some theories suggest it could have served a symbolic purpose, perhaps representing the underworld, or Duat, where the sun god Ra traversed nightly. Its unfinished state, however, strongly leans towards the abandoned first attempt explanation. Partway down the descending corridor, a perfectly cut hole in the ceiling marks the beginning of the ascending corridor. This passage, of similar dimensions to the one below, rises upwards at the exact same 26-degree angle, mirroring the descent.
So, a passage going up, was it blocked?
Well, yes. It was originally sealed at its lower end by three massive, perfectly fitted granite plugs, which are still in place today. Caliph al-Mamun's tunnel was dug precisely to circumvent these formidable obstacles. The ascending corridor leads to a crucial junction point within the pyramid. From here, a horizontal passage continues straight ahead, leading to the so-called Queen's Chamber.
The Queen's Chamber, but it's a total misnomer, isn't it? It wasn't actually for a queen. What was its real function then, if not a queen's tomb?
That's absolutely right. This chamber, located centrally on the pyramid's north-south axis, is finely constructed from smooth limestone and features a distinctive gabled roof, an early example of sophisticated load-bearing design. Its name, given by early Arab explorers, is indeed a misnomer. Subsidiary queens were buried in their own separate, smaller pyramids. Egyptologists believe it more likely served as a serdab,
A serdab? What's that?
a chamber to house a cast statue of the king, an embodiment of his spirit. Or perhaps as a sophisticated storage room for essential funerary items that would sustain him in the afterlife. Adding to its enduring enigma are two small, square shafts, approximately 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters, that extend from the north and south walls. Unlike the shafts in the king's chamber above, these did not originally open to the outside and were sealed on their interior ends.
Sealed shafts. Leading where?
That's the mystery. In 1872, the British engineer Wayman Dixon discovered them, and in a remarkably lucky find, retrieved a small collection of artifacts: a small bronze grapnel hook, a piece of cedar-like wood, and a small dolerite or granite ball.
Objects from inside. That's rare.
Incredibly rare. These are, in fact, the only objects ever recovered from the pyramid's original sealed context. More recently, robotic explorations in 1993, led by Rudolf Gantenbrink's Upwat II robot.
Robots in the pyramid.
Yes. And again, in 2002, by a team led by Zahi Hawass, revealed that the shafts are blocked by limestone doors with small copper handles. The exact purpose of these shafts and their doors remains one of the pyramid's most tantalizing unsolved mysteries, fueling much speculation. What are they hiding? Or where do they lead?
Wow, secret doors inside hidden shafts. Okay, now as you ascend from that junction, you reach one of the most magnificent and dramatic spaces inside the pyramid, the Grand Gallery. This isn't just a passage, it's an architectural marvel in itself.
It truly is. At the point where the horizontal passage branches off toward the Queen's Chamber, the ascending corridor transforms dramatically into one of the most breathtaking spaces in all of ancient architecture, the Grand Gallery. This magnificent corbelled hall continues upwards at the same 26-degree slope for a length of nearly 47 meters or 153 feet, reaching a towering height of 8.7 meters or 28 feet. Its most striking feature is its corbelled vault, where each of the 7 courses of the polished limestone walls projects slightly inward over the one below. It creates a visually stunning and structurally sound inverted staircase effect in the ceiling. This was a sophisticated architectural choice, transferring the immense weight of the masonry outwards.
It looks incredible in photos, so what was the function of this extraordinary space? Was it just a grand entrance, or did it have a practical purpose, perhaps even related to the construction challenges we discussed earlier, like moving those huge blocks?
Its function has been a subject of long debate, but there's strong consensus for a dual purpose. Its primary role was almost certainly related to the pyramid's elaborate security system. It is widely believed that the gallery was designed to act as a massive storage channel for the large granite blocks that were used to plug the ascending corridor after the king's funeral.
Ah, storing the plugs to seal a tomb.
Exactly. These plugs would have been held in place within the gallery by a system of cross beams, potentially utilizing the 27 pairs of slots along the side ramps, and then released to slide down the slope, permanently sealing the passage to the upper chambers and the king's chamber. However, its sheer scale and sophisticated design have led many researchers to propose a dual construction-related function. The gallery's design, with its side ramps and a central channel or trough running down the middle, is incredibly well suited to have housed a sophisticated counterweight system.
A counterweight system, like a pulley.
Something like that, yes. Such a system could have been used to help haul the heaviest granite beams for the king's chamber, those 80-ton monsters from Aswan, and the sarcophagus itself, up to the level of the king's chamber. This would have provided a mechanical advantage, allowing a smaller workforce to move immense weights. This theory points to a level of engineering sophistication and maybe a form of lost technology that goes beyond simple muscle and ramps, solving one of the project's most significant engineering challenges.
So the Grand Gallery might have been part of the construction machinery itself. That's fascinating. And finally, at the top of the Grand Gallery, you reach the King's Chamber complex, the very heart of the pyramid, and the pharaoh's supposed final resting place.
Correct. At the very top of the Grand Gallery, a low, constricted passage leads to the ultimate destination within the pyramid, the King's Chamber complex. Before entering the chamber itself, one must pass through a small antechamber. This room was the final line of defense for the burial chamber, originally equipped with a formidable portcullis system of 3 massive granite slabs that could be lowered down vertical grooves to block the passage.
More security features. They really wanted to keep people out.
They certainly did. Though the system was ultimately breached by ancient tomb robbers, it powerfully demonstrates the builders' preoccupation with securing the pharaoh's final resting place against intrusion.
And the King's Chamber itself, what does it tell us about Khufu's final resting place? Is it decorated?
No, like the rest of the interior passages, it's dark granite. The King's Chamber is a severe and majestic room constructed entirely of massive, precisely fitted blocks of red Aswan granite. A truly monumental undertaking given its remote source. Its dimensions are a perfect 2.1 rectangle, measuring 10 royal cubits by 20 royal cubits, which translates to approximately 5.24 meters by 10.48 meters. The chamber contains the sole object left in the pyramid, Khufu's sarcophagus.
The famous empty sarcophagus.
The very one, an enormous, lidless box hewn from a single block of granite. And here's a key point. The sarcophagus is slightly wider than the entrance to the chamber.
So they couldn't have brought it in afterward.
Exactly. It provides definitive proof that it was placed in the room during construction before the ceiling beams were lowered into place, making its removal impossible without dismantling part of the pyramid. Now, the flat ceiling of the King's Chamber is a marvel of engineering, but the true genius of its design lies hidden above, to protect the chamber from the crushing weight of the millions of tons of masonry directly above it.
All that rock.
The builders constructed a series of 5 low, inaccessible chambers, now famously known as the relieving chambers. These chambers are separated by massive horizontal granite beams, and the entire structure is capped by a gabled limestone roof.
Those are the chambers where Weiss found the graffiti.
The very same. This sophisticated system was not ceremonial, but purely structural. It was ingeniously designed to deflect the immense pressure of the pyramid's core downwards and away from the ceiling of the king's chamber, preventing its collapse under unimaginable loads. It was a masterpiece of ancient structural engineering.
Incredible foresight. And those famous shafts in the King's Chamber, they weren't for ventilation, as many might assume for such an enclosed space, were they? What was their true purpose?
That's an important distinction often misunderstood. Extending from the north and south walls of the King's Chamber are 2 more small shafts, similar in dimension to those in the Queen's Chamber. But unlike the lower shafts, these were designed to open to the exterior of the pyramid, though they are now largely blocked by debris or later modifications.
So they went all the way out.
Originally, yes. These are definitively not ventilation shafts, as a mummified pharaoh has no need for air. Instead, they are believed to have served a crucial religious and astronomical purpose. Astronomical analysis suggests they were precisely aligned with specific stars or constellations highly significant to Egyptian afterlife beliefs. The northern shaft pointed towards the circumpolar stars, particularly Thuban, which was then the pole star.
The imperishable stars.
Exactly, representing the eternal destination of the royal soul. The southern shaft was aligned with the constellation of Orion, which was intimately associated with the god Osiris, the resurrected king of the afterlife and lord of the underworld.
So passages for the soul to travel to the stars.
That's the leading interpretation. Celestial conduits, mystical pathways designed to allow the pharaoh's soul to ascend from his tomb and take its rightful place in the heavens, joining the gods.
So what's the overall implication of this journey through the interior? It sounds like they were making it up as they went along, adapting the plan during construction, which suggests a remarkably flexible approach for such a rigid structure.
Yes, that's a key insight into the Egyptian building process. The progression from the rough, unfinished subterranean chamber, to the sealed-off queen's chamber, likely abandoned, to the final granite-fortified king's chamber high within the structure. It strongly suggests that the pyramid's internal design was not static. It appears to have been a dynamic plan that evolved significantly during the decades of construction. The builders seem to have made significant changes, moving the intended burial chamber progressively higher and more secure within the monument. This reveals a design process that was flexible, responsive to new ideas, changing requirements, or perhaps even unforeseen structural challenges, rather than the rigid execution of a single immutable blueprint. It speaks volumes about their adaptive ingenuity.
We've explored the visible and known interior of the pyramid and even peered into its mysterious inner shafts. But now let's turn to how 21st century science is revealing what was previously unseeable, literally peering through stone to uncover entirely new secrets that are fundamentally changing our understanding of this ancient wonder. This is where it gets really exciting.
For centuries, the exploration of the Great Pyramid was limited to physical entry and direct measurement, often with significant effort and even damage, like with Vyse and his gunpowder. However, in the 21st century, a revolutionary new approach has allowed scientists to peer through its solid stone walls, unveiling secrets that have been hidden for 4,500 years. The Scan Pyramids Project, an international multidisciplinary mission launched in 2015, has applied cutting-edge particle physics to the study of ancient architecture, leading to some of the most significant discoveries at Giza in over a century.
Particle physics and pyramids. This truly sounds like something out of science fiction. How exactly are they seeing through tons of solid stone without touching it? How does that even work?
It does sound futuristic, doesn't it? The primary technology used by the Scan Pyramids team is muon tomography, also known as myography. Think of it this way. How do you X-ray a mountain? You can't. Not with traditional methods. But nature provides us with the perfect tool, muons. These are fundamental particles, similar to electrons, but about 200 times more massive. They're produced when high-energy cosmic rays, which are constantly bombarding Earth's atmosphere from space, collide with atoms in the upper atmosphere.
Cosmic rays creating particles.
Okay. And these muons travel at nearly the speed of light and possess an extraordinary ability to penetrate hundreds of meters of dense material like rock before being absorbed or decaying. This property makes them perfect, natural probes for imaging the interior of massive structures like the Great Pyramid, entirely non-invasively.
So it's essentially like an X-ray, but on a colossal scale using natural cosmic particles where the pyramid casts a muon shadow.
Precisely. The technique works in a manner analogous to a medical X-ray or CT scan. Sensitive detectors, which could be nuclear emulsion films or advanced electronic scintillators, are strategically placed inside or around the pyramid. They record the trajectory and number of muons passing through it from every angle. If a muon's path takes it through solid limestone or granite, it is more likely to be absorbed or deflected. If its path takes through an empty space or a void like a hidden chamber or corridor, it will pass through unimpeded and strike the detector.
So more muons hit the detector where there's empty space.
Exactly. By collecting data over many months, sometimes even years, and analyzing the resulting muon shadow or pattern of absorption, scientists can create a three-dimensional density map of the pyramid's interior, revealing the presence of previously unknown chambers or corridors. This powerful technique has transformed the pyramid from a static historical monument into a living laboratory, where the frontiers of high-energy physics and archaeology intersect to solve ancient mysteries.
And they've already had some incredible successes with this technology, haven't they? Like the North Face Corridor, a space that had long been suspected but never confirmed until recently.
That's right. One of the first major and compelling discoveries of the Scan Pyramids project was the confirmation of a hidden corridor located directly behind the pyramid's north face, specifically above the original entrance. The presence of large, gabled limestone blocks known as chevrons in this area had long led to speculation among Egyptologists about a space behind them, as such architecture often indicates an underlying void or stress relief. Thermal scanning in 2016 initially revealed a temperature anomaly in this area.
Heat detecting a hidden space.
Potentially, yes, an anomaly. This prompted the team to place muon detectors in the descending corridor below to investigate further.
And what did the muon data reveal about this space? Was it just a small niche or something more significant?
The muon data definitively confirmed the existence of a void, which was designated the Scan Pyramids North Face Corridor, or SPNFC. Further scans precisely determined its characteristics. The corridor is approximately 9 meters or 30 feet long and about 2.1 meters or 7 feet wide and high, with a distinctive gabled or chevron-shaped ceiling, just as the external chevron suggested.
So the chevrons were a clue.
Exactly. And in a landmark moment in March 2023, the team was able to drill a tiny 6 millimeter wide hole, about the size of a pencil, and insert a miniature endoscopic camera.
They put a camera inside. What did they see?
They captured the first ever direct images from inside this sealed space. The footage revealed an empty corridor with roughly finished walls, clearly not intended for public viewing or elaborate decoration, which is significant for understanding its purpose.
So what's the consensus on its purpose? Does it lead to anything bigger, or is it primarily a structural feature like those relieving chambers?
There is a strong consensus among Egyptologists and structural engineers about the primary purpose of this corridor. Its location directly above the main entrance passage strongly suggests as a structural feature. It seems designed to relieve and distribute the immense weight of the pyramid's masonry away from the ceiling of the descending corridor, preventing its collapse. Similar weight-relieving chambers are known from other pyramids, like the one at Meidum, indicating this was a known architectural technique.
So probably not a secret passage to treasure.
Probably not. While some have speculated that the corridor might lead to further, as yet undiscovered hidden chambers, its immediate architectural context and appearance from the endoscopic camera strongly indicate its primary function is architectural rather than funerary or ritualistic.
Okay, that makes sense. But the truly mind-blowing discovery, the one that really ignited a firestorm of debate and sent shockwaves through the world of Egyptology and beyond, was the detection of the Scan Pyramid's Big Void. This is where it gets really interesting and where the questions about something we don't understand truly begin to resonate.
Indeed. The most spectacular and enigmatic discovery of the project was announced in the prestigious journal Nature in November 2017. The detection of a massive, previously unknown void deep within the pyramid's core. Designated the Scan Pyramid's Big Void, or SPBV, its existence was confirmed with an extremely high degree of certainty by three independent teams of physicists using different muon detection technologies from multiple vantage points.
3 different teams confirmed it.
Yes, using different methods, looking from inside the Queen's Chamber, the Grand Gallery, and even from outside the pyramid. This multi-method confirmation provides robust evidence for its reality. It's not just an anomaly in one data set.
And where is this big void and how big are we talking? What does its sheer scale tell us about the pyramid's internal structure? Is it like another chamber?
It's located directly above and roughly parallel to the Grand Gallery, approximately 10 meters above its ceiling. And it is a truly vast space. It's estimated to be at least 30 meters or 98 feet in length, roughly the length of a Boeing 737 aircraft, and to have a cross-section similar to that of the Grand Gallery below it.
30 meters long? That's enormous.
It is. Its immense size and central location within the pyramid make it a feature of profound importance, yet its specific purpose is completely unknown, sparking intense debate among scholars. Unlike the North Face corridor, the Big Void is deep within the pyramid structure, making it physically inaccessible without a significant and potentially destructive drilling operation, which no one wants to undertake on such a monument.
Right, you can't just drill into the Great Pyramid casually. So what does this revelation fundamentally change about our understanding of the pyramid's internal architecture? It seems to imply a far greater complexity than we ever imagined.
It absolutely does. It fundamentally alters our understanding of the pyramid's architecture, proving that its core is not a simple, homogeneous mass of blocks, but a more complex, intricately engineered structure of solids and voids. Regardless of its ultimate purpose, its existence demonstrates a level of architectural and logistical complexity far greater than previously imagined, and indeed points to something we don't yet fully understand about their methods of construction or their precise internal planning. It's a genuine testament to the fact that even after centuries of study, this ancient wonder continues to hold significant secrets.
Okay, this is where the theories really diverge, and where people can draw their own conclusions about what this implies about ancient technology or hidden purposes. What are the leading ideas about the Big Void's purpose? What could it be?
There are several leading theories, and it's important to look at all of them as we currently don't have definitive answers. One of the most straightforward explanations, put forth by some engineers and Egyptologists, is that the void, like the relieving chambers above the king's chamber, was designed for a structural purpose.
Another relieving chamber, just much bigger.
Potentially. To reduce the immense load and relieve the pressure on the corbelled ceiling of the Grand Gallery below. Proponents point to the precedent of the king's chamber relieving chambers as evidence of Egyptian genius and weight distribution. However, Some structural engineers have questioned this hypothesis, arguing that the void is located too high above the gallery, around 10 meters, to provide effective structural support, and that the Grand Gallery's corbel design is inherently strong on its own, making such a large void for simple relief somewhat redundant. Why make it so big?
Hmm. Okay, so maybe not just structural relief. What else? What about construction?
Another prominent theory, which aligns with the ideas of lost technology or something we don't understand, is that the big void is a remnant of the construction process itself. It could be a sealed-off section of a large internal ramp that was used to transport blocks to the upper levels of the pyramid. This would fit neatly with Jean-Pierre Houdin's internal ramp theory we discussed earlier and would explain its gallery-like shape and inclined orientation.
So it could be part of Houdin's internal ramp, sealed up afterwards.
That's one idea. A related idea is that it served as a second, higher-level channel for a sophisticated counterweight system. This system, working in tandem with the Grand Gallery below, could have been used to hoist the massive granite beams for the King's Chamber complex into their final position.
Ah, like the Grand Gallery might have been the lower part of the system and this void the upper part.
Possibly. This would represent a sophisticated multi-stage construction mechanism, offering a plausible, albeit complex, solution to a major engineering challenge. The main objection to these construction-related theories, though, is that they rely on unproven assumptions about such complex machinery, and no direct archaeological evidence of such a system has yet been found. It's still theoretical.
Right. And then, of course, the most sensational theory, the one that excites treasure hunters and mystery lovers, a hidden, undisturbed burial chamber, perhaps even containing Khufu's long-lost mummy or treasures. Could this be it?
Yes, the most sensational, though least likely from a mainstream Egyptological perspective possibility, is that the Big Void is a hidden and sealed chamber with a ritualistic purpose. Speculation has ranged from it being the true, undisturbed burial chamber of Khufu to a vast storage place for his funerary treasures, or even a symbolic chamber related to his afterlife journey. Proponents of this theory often point out that Khufu's mummy has never actually been found, and a sarcophagus within the king's chamber was empty when first entered.
So the empty sarcophagus fuels this idea.
It does. However, mainstream Egyptologists are highly skeptical of this interpretation. The pyramid already contains a complete set of funerary chambers, the subterranean, queen's, and king's chambers, which seems sufficient according to known practices. And crucially, detailed muon scans have not detected any connecting passages or an obvious entrance to the void. How would you even get in or out?
Right, no doors found yet.
So while tantalizing to the imagination, there is no direct evidence to support it being a hidden tomb, and it goes against established funerary practices for that period. But the lack of definitive purpose keeps its speculation alive.
It sounds like the pyramid still has plenty of secrets, even with all these advanced technologies. Are there more discoveries on the horizon beyond the Great Pyramid? Perhaps in the other Giza monuments? Are they scanning those too?
Indeed, the Scan Pyramids project has also identified potential anomalies in the other Giza pyramids. For example, in 2025, the team reported the detection of voids behind the eastern face of the smallest pyramid, that of Menkaure. Interestingly, this mirrors the known entrance on its north side and raises the possibility of a second hidden entrance there.
Another hidden entrance in Menkaure's pyramid.
It's a possibility they're investigating. Other, more speculative research using ground-penetrating radar has claimed to detect vast, multi-level complexes deep in the bedrock beneath the Giza Plateau. However, such findings are preliminary and must be treated with caution, as natural geological features like caves and fissures can easily be misinterpreted as artificial structures. You need corroborating evidence, like from muons.
True, radar can be tricky underground.
The future of pyramid exploration undeniably lies in refining these non-invasive technologies. Projects like the Exploring the Great Pyramid mission are planning to deploy next-generation muon telescopes with over 100 times the sensitivity of current instruments.
100 times more sensitive.
Yes, to create a true high-resolution tomographic image of the entire structure. This really highlights that we're still in the early stages of understanding some of these complex structures, and the secrets they hold may yet surprise us. There's still so much potentially hidden inside.
The pyramid is a monumental testament to both ancient skill and modern science, but it also casts a long shadow over the human imagination, attracting both rigorous scholarly inquiry and fantastic, sometimes outlandish, theories. Let's talk about that legacy.
For over 4.5 millennia, the Great Pyramid has been more than just a stone structure. It has been a canvas onto which successive cultures have projected their awe, their beliefs, and their scientific curiosity. Its status as a wonder of the world cemented its place in Western consciousness, while its sheer scale, extreme age, and precision have made it a focal point for speculation and debate that continues to this day. Understanding the pyramid requires not only an analysis of its physical reality, but also a profound appreciation for its enduring legacy in the human imagination and how it continues to challenge our perceptions of ancient capabilities. What did they really know? How did they really do it?
It truly is unique among the seven wonders, isn't it? The only one still standing. That alone makes it a symbol of unparalleled endurance. It just lasts.
Absolutely. The Great Pyramid holds a unique and privileged position among the canonical seven wonders of the ancient world. It's by far the oldest on the list, predating the others by as much as 2,000 years, and it is the only one that remains standing today, largely intact. The other six marvels of the Hellenistic world, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, whose very existence is debated by some, the opulent Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, the awe-inspiring statue of Zeus at Olympia, the Grand Mausoleum at Halicarnassus, the colossal Colossus of Rhodes, and the towering Lighthouse of Alexandria, have all succumbed to the ravages of time, fire, or earthquakes. They're gone.
Just gone. So why has the Great Pyramid lasted when these other equally impressive wonders crumbled into dust? What was it about its design or construction that granted it this incredible longevity? Was it just bigger?
Size is part of it, but it's more fundamental. The pyramid's extraordinary longevity is a direct result of its masterful design and the materials used. It is, in essence, a man-made mountain of incredibly solid stone. Its vast mass, perfectly stable square base, and incredibly low center of gravity make it exceptionally resistant to the seismic shocks and natural decay that toppled the more delicate or structurally complex structures on the list. It's just incredibly stable.
Built like a mountain, basically.
Pretty much. While its brilliant polished white limestone casing was painstakingly stripped away between the 14th and 19th centuries, largely to provide building materials for the growing city of Cairo.
They used it as a quarry.
Sadly, yes. But the massive core structure has remained fundamentally intact, a testament to the enduring genius and foresight of its builders. Its survival has granted it a unique status, transforming it from a mere relic of the ancient world into a permanent and tangible feature of the modern one, a living connection to an incredibly distant past.
Its immense scale, extreme age, and almost unbelievable precision have also made it a fertile ground for some of the most enduring and fascinating speculative theories, often existing outside the bounds of mainstream academic research. One of the most famous and persistent of these is the Orion correlation theory. This is where the idea of lost civilizations and ancient aliens often creeps in, implying that standard archaeology is simply missing something fundamental. What's the core idea there?
Right. This raises an important question. How do we distinguish between evidence-based archaeology and speculative theories, especially when both are attempting to explain such a monumental mystery? The Orion correlation theory, first proposed in detail by Robert Bauval in the late 1980s, posits that the layout of the three main pyramids on the Giza Plateau was intentionally designed to be a terrestrial map, a direct reflection, supposedly, of the three bright stars forming the belt of Orion: Lenitak, El-Nalam, and Mintaka.
So the pyramids match the stars in Orion's belt. How so?
Proponents claim that the slight offset of Menkaur's pyramid, the smallest of the three, perfectly mirrors the slight offset of Mintaka, the third and faintest star in Orion's belt. And they expand on this, don't they, to suggest a much earlier lost civilization, pushing the date of construction back by millennia.
Yeah, that's the part I've heard. 10,500 BC or something.
Yes. The theory is often expanded to suggest that the Nile River represents the Milky Way, and that the entire Giza complex, including the Sphinx, which is posited to represent the constellation Leo, is aligned to a celestial map as it appeared not in 2600 BC during Khufu's reign, but much, much earlier, around 10,500 BC. This vastly earlier date is then used to argue for the existence of a lost, highly advanced civilization of remote antiquity, possessing capabilities far beyond what we typically attribute to early humans at that time.
Okay, it's a compelling story, a sky map on the ground pointing to a lost golden age. But mainstream Egyptologists and astronomers have some significant critiques of this theory, correct? What are their arguments against this proposed celestial connection in ancient timeline? Where does it fall down for them?
Mainstream Egyptologists, archaeologists, and astronomers overwhelmingly reject the Orion correlation theory as a form of pseudo-archaeology, pointing to a series of critical flaws in its evidence and methodology. Firstly, to achieve the visual match between the pyramids and the stars, the celestial map must be inverted, placing south at the top. This is counter to standard astronomical charts and known ancient Egyptian cartographic conventions.
You have to flip the sky map upside down.
Essentially, yes.
Hmm.
While proponents argue this could have been an ancient Egyptian convention, there is no direct evidence from the Old Kingdom to support this claim. It appears to be an ad hoc adjustment specifically made to make the theory work. It fits the theory, but isn't supported elsewhere. Secondly, the alignment is not as perfect as it is often claimed. Astronomers have pointed out that the kink in the line of the pyramids deviates to the north, while the kink in Orion's belt, when viewed in the night sky, deviates to the south.
So the angles don't actually match unless you flip one.
Correct. The correlation, in fact, only appears after one of the images is flipped. Furthermore, the angle of the line of pyramids on the ground does not precisely match the angle of the belt in the sky, especially when accounting for the sky's appearance during the Fourth Dynasty, when the pyramids were actually built based on all other evidence.
Okay, so the visual match isn't quite there without manipulation. What about the 10,500 BC date, the lost civilization part?
That's right, and this is perhaps the most significant point for archaeologists. The 10,500 BC date is entirely without archaeological foundation. The vast body of evidence, from countless pottery shards, tool fragments, and administrative inscriptions to the surrounding cemeteries of the builders themselves, firmly places the construction of the Giza pyramids within the historical context of the Fourth Dynasty, specifically around 2600 BC.
So there's just no evidence of people building pyramids back then.
There is no evidence of any civilization capable of such monumental construction, or indeed any large-scale organized society, at that earlier date in that region. Finally, the theory contains significant cultural anachronisms. For example, the zodiac constellations, such as Leo, were a Mesopotamian invention that was not introduced to Egypt until the much later Greco-Roman period, thousands of years after Khufu, making their inclusion in an Old Kingdom plan impossible.
So using Leo for the Sphinx alignment wouldn't have made sense to Old Kingdom Egyptians.
Not according to our current understanding of their cosmology and astronomy. They had their own constellations and beliefs.
So this theory really highlights the difference in methodologies, doesn't it? One building on verifiable evidence found on the ground, the other looking for patterns, maybe selectively, that fit a predetermined narrative.
It does. The Orion correlation theory serves as an important case study of the difference between scientific archaeology and speculative pattern seeking. While the ancient Egyptians were undoubtedly skilled astronomers who oriented their monuments to the heavens.
Which we know from the alignments. Exactly. Mainstream archaeology builds its conclusions on a convergence of verifiable, contextualized evidence from excavations, deciphered texts, and material culture. In contrast, theories like the OCT tend to select disparate data points, ignore contradictory evidence, and propose grand, overarching narratives that lack a rigorous evidentiary foundation. Ultimately, it allows you, the listener, to critically evaluate how conclusions are reached based on the type of evidence presented. Right, looking at how people arrive at their conclusions is key. So, what's the larger picture here as we wrap up? The Great Pyramid of Giza truly exists in a state of profound duality. It's both a deeply understood artifact and a frontier of ongoing discovery, still giving up its secrets.
That's beautifully put, and it's the core takeaway from our deep dive. On one hand, it is a deeply understood artifact of the ancient world. The convergence of archaeological, textual, and inscriptional evidence makes its identity as the tomb of the Fourth Dynasty Pharaoh Khufu an undeniable fact of history for mainstream science. Excavations of the worker city have provided a rich, humanizing portrait of the skilled and organized society that built it, definitively replacing myths of slave labor with a story of national mobilization and collective purpose. Its internal passages and chambers, while still holding some mysteries like those shafts, are well-documented components of a sophisticated funerary apparatus designed to secure the king's eternal life according to the theological principles of the Old Kingdom.
But on the other hand, it remains a frontier of discovery, a monument still actively yielding new insights, especially with these new technologies.
Absolutely. Fundamental questions about its construction, the precise nature of the REM systems used to raise its millions of blocks, and whether there was a lost technology or a more elegant solution than we currently understand, continue to be debated with vigor. Was it just ramps and levers, or something more? And the application of 21st century particle physics has pierced its stone veil, revealing massive, enigmatic voids like the SPBV that have fundamentally altered our understanding of its internal architecture and forced a reevaluation of the complexity of its design and construction.
That big void really throws a wrench in the works, doesn't it?
It really does. These discoveries demonstrate that the pyramid is not merely a passive relic to be studied, but an active participant in modern science, a catalyst for technological innovation that pushes the boundaries of what is possible in non-invasive exploration. More than 4,500 years after its completion, the Akhet Khufu, the horizon of Khufu, has not set. It remains a singular monument, a bridge between the dawn of civilization and the cutting edge of modern science. It is a testament to the boundless ambition and ingenuity of an ancient people, and an enduring symbol of the greatest mysteries that still lie buried, waiting to be discovered. The Great Pyramid continues to challenge our assumptions, inspire awe, and prove that the oldest of the world's wonders can still yield the newest of its secrets, leaving us to wonder what else lies hidden within those stones.
So, as you reflect on this incredible journey through the Great Pyramid, consider this: how the very act of seeking to understand it, whether through ancient texts, archaeological digs, or cosmic ray muon scans, reveals as much about our own human curiosity and our relentless drive for knowledge as it does about the ancient builders themselves. What deeper layers of understanding might you uncover by looking at the world's wonders through both a traditional and a cutting edge lens, allowing you to weigh the evidence from both mainstream archaeology and the persistent questions raised by its sheer scale and precision, and draw your own conclusions about the true extent of ancient capabilities? Was it human ingenuity pushed to its absolute limits, or something more? And that wraps up our deep dive into the Great Pyramid Beyond the Stones. We've journeyed through its known history, explored its engineering marvels, peered into its hidden interior, and even touched on the exciting new scientific discoveries that are changing our understanding.
We hope this deep dive has revealed that while much is known, the pyramid continues to yield new insights and sparks crucial debates about how it was built and what secrets it might still hold. The true wonder lies not just in its construction, but in its enduring mystery and our continuous quest to understand it.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible exploration.